Welcome back. All right, so some news of the day for all you fine people for your Wednesday, November the 15th, halfway through November. All right, so Buffalo news first. Tage Thompson is going to be out week to week. Took a puck to the wrist last night, exited the game. It was the second time he'd been hurt during the game. Missing Thompson week to week when Buffalo's already not playing well enough. It's obviously really bad news for the Buffalo Sabres. This is a team that a lot was expected. Well, I'm not going to say a lot was expected of, but they were considered to be a dark horse to make the playoffs. And, in some cases, me included, just really people rooting for them to finally make the playoffs. The good news is Comrie's going to travel with the team. He's close to a return. However, I don't know that goaltending's been their problem lately between Levi and Luukkonen. They've been getting solid enough goaltending. I know Levi last night, it was a rough night for him, but I don't know that the return of Comrie necessarily makes a huge shift in terms of how things are going. I would think Luukkonen gets sent down to Rochester, and so, yeah, we'll see how that turns out. But without Thompson for a while, that's going to hurt. So GMs had some discussions yesterday about changing 3-on-3, and I considered doing a video on some of this, and I thought, well, on its own as a video, but it'll work as part of a news video. So they have basically been discussing how 3-on-3 overtime has become kind of a slog at times. Now, not all the time. Sometimes those 3-on-3s are absolutely crazy and they're fun. But yeah, it's become puck possession. You win the face-off and then you skate backwards and you look around and you wait and you wait and you wait. You hold it. You go up the ice, and if you don't like what you see, well, you go back again and you wait and you wait and you hold it. And I mean, we've seen where 3.5 minutes of an overtime, just one team has the puck, the other team's just watching. And so the NHL, the general managers, not really fans of that style. They've wanted to get rid of the shootout portion too. There's been talk of extending overtime, which would have to get the okay from the NHLPA. I would think from broadcasters as well, right? So they're talking about maybe doing an over and back rule. So for anybody who's played basketball, it's really simple. The over and back rule is once you've passed half court, you can't go back into your own end of the court. Well, this would be much the same. Once you pass the red line, you cannot go back past the red line. I guess they would treat that like an offside or whatever. The problem is that would create whistles. And one thing general managers have said is they don't want to have extra whistles in overtime. They want to keep the speed going. So I don't know what the end game is going to be here, but the meetings they have now are more of a precursor to the spring. So this is the kind of thing that they're going to be taking a look at. They were also looking at cut resistant equipment, that being discussed. So obviously neck guards have been talked about a lot, but the wrists too. Evander Kane got that scary cut to the wrist, right? So there are various parts where a hockey player is exposed, and they're saying cut resistant equipment's come a long way. The argument's always been that it's cumbersome, it's heavy, it's uncomfortable. So they're saying that with the equipment they have now and with the technology they have now to have for this cut resistant equipment, that it is much more comfortable and much lighter. I'm going to say it again. I think you just grandfather it in. You just say, all right, so it's going to be required for rookies coming into the league, so it would be for the 2024-2025 season and from then going forward. Same thing they did with helmets, same thing they did with visors. And that way, none of the veterans get, their nose out of joint about it. And for rookies coming into the game, a lot of them would be used to wearing that equipment anyways. A lot of this stuff is mandated for kids when they play hockey, and so they grow up using it. They're used to it. So at any rate, that's where that's headed. We'll see what comes out of the meetings in the spring when there's really talk of change going into the following season. So for the Oilers, Janmark and Holloway have been placed on LTIR. Janmark hasn't played for a while anyways, so this is a move made to increase your cap space to be able to bring players up. Broberg, Ernie, and Lavoie have all been recalled. I found that interesting because didn't Lavoie play in their last game? So basically a paper move there, right? Broberg, depth on defense. Ernie, fourth line forward. And so we'll see how that affects the Oilers as soon as tonight, where they're at home against the Seattle Kraken. Gabe Vilardi at practice today for the Winnipeg Jets, wearing a non-contact jersey, so he's a step closer to returning, and the Jets are playing well in his absence. So once he comes back, they should be even better, right? Vilardi was on the first line to start the season, and of course got injured relatively early on. So hopefully once he's ready to come back, he stays healthy. Speaking of healthy, Carter Hart returns tonight for the Philadelphia Flyers against Carolina Hurricanes. He's missed the last little while here. For Philadelphia, they're sitting in NHL 500, so they're still close enough to a potential playoff spot to be in the discussion. Also, they're losing enough that if you want to say, well, they're not going to make the playoffs, you can make that argument as well. So yeah, we'll see how Hart does against Carolina. Ville Husso over at the Global Series in Sweden has returned to Detroit. So it looks like for the Red Wings on this trip, it's a good thing that there's 3 goaltenders. So now to be Reimer and Lyon for them. Husso's returned to Detroit because his wife's given birth to their child. So he's gone back to be with her. And congratulations to Ville Husso on the birth of his child. So I think it's great that NHL teams are understanding of players leaving to be with their spouses before, during, after. And the thing is, it feels like that wasn't a thing back in the day. It feels like it's the kind of thing that hockey players just missed back in the 80s. They've got a game. I'd love to be there for the birth of my child, but got a game tonight, so can't be. And so I think that's one of the more humanitarianly nice things that we've seen in the evolution of hockey over the last 30, 40 years. Anyways, yeah, it gets to be a long time. It's better not to think about it. So Flames talk, and again, there's a lot of talk about the Flames because this is a team that's still sitting below 500. Although last night they won, and I think they've been playing better the last couple of weeks. But Pierre LeBrun's reporting that the Flames are listening to offers on Hanifin, Lindholm, and Tanev. So Zadorov's come out and said he wants to go. The other 3 haven't. I haven't heard anything official of them saying we want out. But the Flames are listening to offers. They're all unrestricted free agents next summer. The Flames would be crazy not to listen to offers on those 3 players. Tanev, of course, as a Canuck fan, would love to see him back in Vancouver. With the injury news in Vancouver right now, does that mean it's more likely to happen? Less likely? We'll see. But yeah, so the Flames are just listening at this point. It doesn't sound like they're actively shopping these players and that they're getting phone calls on these players. And in the NHL, defense, of course, is paramount, and so Tanev as well as Zadorov will attract a lot of interest. Zub is expected to return tomorrow for the Ottawa Senators. He's been out for a while, a really good defensive defenseman, and so getting him back in the lineup should help them as they try to get to and above 500 on their record, right? So we'll see how he plays in his return. On Vancouver news, Soucy is out for 6 to 8 weeks with a lower body injury. That announced today by Patrick Allvin. So that's why I'm saying, does Soucy being out for a long period of time, for almost 2 months, does that increase the chances that they go out and they make an offer for Tanev or somebody who plays that style of hockey? Tanev, I don't think, would be the same defenseman now that he was 4 years ago when he was in Vancouver, but he's still a pretty good defenseman. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But with Soucy out for 6 to 8 weeks, it does put a little bit of stress on that blue line in Vancouver. I do think they have the depth to cover it, but we're going to find out. And, of course, I'll be at the game tonight and get a good look at how the defense is performing minus Soucy. So I wanted to talk about this because I've seen this mentioned. So if a player passes away, if there's some upsetting news, I put it at the bottom of the board. So why would I do that? It's not that it's an afterthought. It's not that it's less important. It's that I can't transition from that news. I can't take a player who's passed away. I can't take something that's happened that's upsetting in the world of hockey, put it at the top, and then transition from it. I've tried, and it just does not work. So I take that news, and I always put it at the bottom, so I finish with that. And it's just, it works better. It definitely is easier for me to get that video than finish, because transitioning from sad news or upsetting news to just, hey, and meanwhile, how about this information? This great. No, this guy's back from injury, and it doesn't work. So that's why that information is always at the bottom of the board. It is not an afterthought. It is not simply a matter of me saying, well, this is less important, or I'm going to bury this information. It is a matter of not being able to transition from that to something else. I've watched it on the news where there's something really tragic, and they're like, oh, and this happened, and there's all this, and all these emergency and everything, and then meanwhile, on the lighter side, there was a puppy in the park. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so jarring. So I don't like the idea of trying to do that, or having to, transition from something that is upsetting and then trying to be all upbeat for the rest of the video. So it's better for me to take that information, put that up at the bottom of the board. So that's why I do that. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.